Bow chicka bow. Content swap.
Sorry, I was burping.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Here we go. So welcome back to the Content Swap podcast. This is a podcast in which the two of us, a married couple, exchange content with each other every single episode and engage with it for, hopefully just a week, but sometimes a lot longer than that. And then we talk about it on this here podcast. We talk about our thoughts, feelings, kind of summarize what it was about, and get into some factoids on how it was made. Did it, yield a profit? Sometimes not. I don't know. We'll see.
Like more often not.
More often, yeah. A lot of the things we talk about, yeah. What does that mean, you think? Like, they're so niche.
We enjoy trash content.
We enjoy non-profitable content. So before we dive into this week's episode and the content that we discussed, we like to dive into our, brief little life news update, a lot of content that we've been engaging with in the meantime. And to start us off, we have Aaliyah.
Woohoo.
That's you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so distracted by my stomach.
Whoa.
Baby has been moving like crazy, and he's getting so big that my whole belly shifts as he goes across it.
Yes.
And it's the weirdest thing to just watch.
Yes, we are pregnant right now. And yeah, baby, it's like either a foot or a hand just kind of like scraping, maybe not scraping, but
that's what it feels like.
Oh,
it feels like an internal scrape.
Scraping kind of your belly from the inside, and I could see it. It's wild.
It's like much like it pokes out more now that he's bigger.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes he'll just have his body part just pressed against me, and there's just like a giant lump on my stomach.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm very distracted by it.
Yeah, the fun moments of being pregnant.
Yeah, almost at the end.
So what's new with you? What's been going on?
Yeah, so content-wise, a few things. So one, I finished a book called, I'm starting with books first, and then I'll get into a show, and then a movie, and then 2 movies. So this book was called Antibot, and I think it came out a while ago, but I'm like slowly getting back into reading, and this one was kind of like a shorter one, and it's pretty much about just like if anyone's watched that like Megan Fox movie Subservience, it's kind of like that, but like much better than that. And it's just like about a very high-tech robot who her purpose is to please her owner, and oftentimes that's like sexually, but he kind of treats her as like a girlfriend, and it's kind of about him being very manipulative with her, and like their dynamic is just really weird and like kind of toxic, and like how she develops as a robot that's very human-like and is constantly learning. How her experiences of being manipulated by her owner like changes the way she thinks about what she is and what's her purpose and what she wants, if she can want something for herself. And yeah, it was just interesting. It's a really short read. I think it's only like 200 and so pages.
Wow. With the full-blown synopsis you gave me yesterday, it sounded like a lot more pages than that.
No, it's a pretty short book.
That is impressive.
There's 7 chapters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really short.
Yeah.
Who's the author?
Good question. I'm not quite sure.
Dang, you're gonna be talking about a book and you're not even gonna give
I'm
credit to the author?
Let me look it up real quick.
It's
by Sierra Greer.
Yeah. Antibot.
Yes.
Okay.
So if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads.
Wow, 4 stars on Goodreads.
Yeah,
okay.
Kept me captivated.
Wow.
I am currently listening to an audiobook. So I'm waiting for Onyx Storm to come out, which is the 3rd book in the like Iron Flame series. I think it's called the Empyrean series or something like that. If you're not familiar with, sorry, not Iron Flame, Fourth Wing.
Fourth Wing.
Iron
like,
Flame is the second book.
What is she talking about? I don't even know what this is.
Sorry, Fourth Wing is the first book. Iron Flame is the second book, and the third is Onyx Storm, which is coming out in I think just like a week or so. And I really enjoy. This is one of the very few books that I really enjoy doing the audiobook, because I think the voice actors just like really put a lot of passion into it, and it makes it more exciting and makes like the happenings even more crazy.
Is this that spicy fantasy series that you were telling me about? Like How to Train Your Dragon, but spicy?
Yeah. Like romantasy is the genre.
Gotcha.
Get it correct.
My bad.
Yes, it is. And like the last book left off on like a really big cliffhanger, and so it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I'm very excited about it, and I'm waiting for that audiobook to, well, I always download them from my like public library app. So I'm like waiting for the audiobook to be available for me through my like public library app. And so in the meantime, I'm just kind of like trying to read things that are kind of quick reads, because I don't know when I'll have access to Onyx Storm. So I'm currently listening to a romance audiobook, which is typically the only time I do audiobooks, because you can kind of miss details and still follow the story. And I have a hard time following audiobooks unless I like sit down and just like pay attention, which I have to do for like Fourth Wing and the rest of the books in the series. So anyways, this book is Daydreamer, which is the third book in the Maple Hills series, which if you all are familiar...
The Maple Hills story.
Maple Hills series.
Yeah. Yes, I'm familiar with this one.
Yes, but for our listeners, if you have listened to podcast episodes past, I talked about books, the book Icebreaker, which is like a hockey romance, and then there was a second one called Wildfires that was like a continuation, or basically like there's a whole cast of characters, and each book focuses on a different cast member who's like a part of the hockey team.
So it's a hockey rom-com series.
Okay, I don't even want to claim it as a hockey rom-com. These are hockey team players, but the stories are never about hockey.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like a hockey rom-com would be like, it's
like centered around the hockeyness.
Right, like by the end of the movie, they get into a relationship and they win the championship. Versus this is they get into a relationship and, one of them just happens to play hockey.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. I think the like Icebreakers was a little bit more centered around hockey, because the guy obviously played hockey. He was the captain of the team, and then the girl figure skated, and so like theirs was a little bit more hockey centered.
I see.
And ice sports
was that
centered.
The first one?
That was the first one.
That makes sense.
But the second one's like you take hockey completely out of it. It's like one of the team members for the summer works at like a summer camp, and it's like it has nothing to do with hockey.
Rollerblade hockey?
Not even. He's just like a camp counselor.
Gotcha.
And then similar to this one, it's one of the team members who's like now taking the role of captain. But again, it's not really about him playing hockey. It's more about him like doing schoolwork and like struggling a little bit in school. And so the girl like is helping him.
And finding a girlfriend.
Yeah. But so far I'm really liking it. Sometimes like I feel like Icebreakers was way too longer than it needed to be. Wildfires I enjoyed, but didn't quite resonate with, I guess, like each character in the book. They're all dealing with something in their life. It didn't quite resonate with like what the characters in the second book were dealing with, although I could like respect it and thought it was a nice plot. But this book, I feel like I find the main male character, his name is Henry. I've always liked his character as he's been brought up in the other books, but I wasn't quite sure like how I'd feel about like a whole book dedicated to him. But I don't know. I feel like I like relate to him on more levels than I did the other characters, and that's really nice. And yeah, also like he's like a black guy, and I didn't even know that, and I was like, was that mentioned in like the previous stories? And I'm like, oh, nice that it's like a black guy who's the main character, Don't see that too often, surprisingly. Or maybe I'm just not reading enough books with Black main characters. I don't know. So yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. I've listened to like, all I've done is listen to it today. So I've gotten through like 5 or 6 hours of the audiobook.
Wow. That's got to be like half.
Not even, because I still have like 8 hours to go. It's a long audiobook.
That is quite long. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but I'm enjoying it. I'll let you all know how I feel about it once I finish it. So that's it for books. And then in terms of shows, the only show that I've engaged with is Love is Blind season 5. And I won't get too detailed into it. It was kind of a boring season. There were only 2 couples that like made it through the season. Like we only followed 2 couples. And they were just kind of like uninteresting to me. So not a great season, but was what it was.
God forbid the TV couples are uninteresting.
They were.
What made them uninteresting?
I don't know. I just like didn't feel connected to them. Like, I don't know. Like there's like usually in a season there's like a couple that I'm really rooting for. Usually it's only like one couple that I'm really rooting for. And I'm like, they make sense. They feel very compatible. And then there's always the couple that I'm like, they do not need to be together. And that's fun to watch because I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to like try and actually make this work? Because like they suck as a couple.
Okay.
And I feel like this one, I just like didn't care. Like I was like, they could be together and I'd be like, whatever. Or they could not be together and I'd be like, whatever, you know? Like I didn't feel strongly about them. And so then like when it came to the wedding times and it like they said whether they were going to be together or not, I was just like, okay.
Well, did they end up together?
One did and then one didn't. And the one that like didn't, because usually it's like pretty dramatic when like one person says like no and the other person's like yes, and like this time they were like okay. Like the girl said no and he was like I respect it, and they kissed. And then she walked away.
I mean, was the music doing the music thing that reality TV does? I mean, like, you know, because you could see the version of that where it's like, I don't want to be with you. And then it's like, ooh.
Yeah. I don't even know. So I only watch it when I'm like having a work day where I have no meetings and I'll have it on in the background as I do work. So I don't even remember like what the music, like what the tone was.
Gotcha,
I just remember like her saying no and then they kiss and then she was like bye and he was like bye and that was that. Like yeah, so I don't know. And I started the next season. I mean they're just in the pods. I feel like I don't ever get a feel for the season until they make it out of the pods. So I can't really tell how I'm feeling about this next season either, but we'll see. I don't know.
So you're on season 6 now?
Yes.
Okay. And there are like, what, 8 seasons total with the 9th one coming on Valentine's Day?
I think there's 7 seasons total and then the 8th one's coming out on Valentine's Day.
Gotcha. We'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Yep. I watch it very sporadically, so we'll see if I catch up before Valentine's Day. In terms of movies, I watched the movie Civil War, which you have seen and raved about highly.
I mean, yeah.
Don't even play. You raved. It is on like your top 10 movies of the year.
It was like number 8 on my top 10 for the year. Okay,
but literally every time where I'm like, let's watch a movie, you're like, Civil War? And I'm like, no.
I mean, yeah, it was just a good movie.
It's all I've heard about.
I didn't say it was the greatest movie. It's number 8 for the year, but it's a good movie.
You've been raving about it. It's all you ever want to watch anytime I say let's watch a movie.
Yeah, and then what did you do? You watched it without me.
I watched it without you. Because I was just like, I could not decide on something to watch. And it was like, you know, on the home page of Max. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to click on it. Just click on it. And
did you finish it?
I did not.
You didn't?
I still
okay.
haven't
Oh my
it.
God. You still haven't even watched the last 15 minutes of the movie. This is like the best part of the movie.
Because we got logged out of Max and I was like too lazy to log back in.
Yeah.
Logging into the stream platforms on a TV is so taxing.
Like Max specifically. It's actually like kind of confusing. Because I Max is like the only thing where I still use somebody else's login, and that's like my dad's login, and he pays through it through like his DirecTV subscription.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's like still paying it or not.
Yeah.
And the last time I had to like log in, I had to like create a new account. It was like a weird thing. And then my brother texted me last week, and he's like, "Hey, is HBO working for you guys?" And I was like, "Oh, it's not." And then you're like, "Oh, we got logged out," and I'm like.
Yeah,
I think we just don't
ours was
have Max anymore.
No, the TV was saying that it was logged in on too many devices, so it like kicked
our
right. TV off. But I use Max through my sister,
right.
and I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who uses that Max. So I could log into my sister's more easily because she just has subscription straight through the Max app.
Gotcha.
But it like now has ads. She doesn't pay for like the non-ad version, so I just like avoid it. So yeah.
All right. Well, you should still finish Civil War.
I know.
Like, okay. Well, so yeah. What did you think of what you did see?
So I thought you were right in that. I'm sorry. He's like kicking in a way that hurts. Sorry. What was I saying?
I was right in that.
You were right in that it like isn't what I thought it was gonna be, like, because that was my whole reason against watching it. I was like, it sounds too depressing. It sounds like it's gonna be like too close to like real life, and
it's really not.
Yeah, I was like, I just like emotionally cannot handle that, and don't want to subject myself to that as like a form of entertainment.
And I kept telling you it wasn't that.
Yeah, and you were like, it's not that at all. Which you were right in that sense of like it is very different, and like, yeah, I don't know. Still like a really hard watch. Like there's still like things that just are just visually
tough.
Yeah. And I'm like, I could see these things happening, not in the same context of what the movie's portraying, but I could see these things happening. And that freaks me out a lot. But it wasn't, I don't know. I think because you like have been trying to get me to watch it, it made me think that you liked it a lot. And so I went into it.
I mean, I did like it a lot.
Yes. But I went into it with like very high expectations.
No. Yeah.
And it did not meet those expectations.
Well, no, nothing's going to meet those expectations. Nothing that is like hyped to that degree that you watch for the first time is going to meet that kind of expectation. So I get it. And I apologize. But it is a very well made film. It's very well written.
Yeah.
And the last 15 minutes, I mean, I don't think like the last 15 minutes are going to change your mind about the movie. But it is just very engrossing because that's when they actually get to Washington, D.C. and like, you get to like find out what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like indifferent to it. I was just like, this isn't bad. This is good. It's not great.
I mean, it's just thrilling. Like, it's engrossing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate a film that captures my attention as well as that movie did.
Yeah. Fair. But yeah, I gotta finish it. I have like literally like 15 minutes left, if that. Left. I'm like right at the end of it, so I do need to finish it. But not bad. And then last is a movie that we watched together, and that is A Real Pain.
Oh yeah.
With Kieran Culkin and
Jesse Eisenberg, who also wrote and directed the movie.
Yes. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah,
I thought
it was good.
Their dynamic together was fantastic, and I feel like this is like the first, like, Jesse Eisenberg always plays himself in movies, which like this is no different. Like, he still very much feels like himself in this movie.
Yeah.
But he gave more emotion than I think I've seen him give in anything else I've seen him in. And that was enjoyable to watch. I mean, it sucks that he was like emotional, but like, I was with him in the movie, and I was like, I can understand like why you're so emotional right now in this moment. And I appreciated it. And so, yeah, I don't know. I really liked it.
I enjoyed getting to watch Kieran Culkin in a movie where he kind of got to like do a good job, so to speak. I feel like he was like the cousin in Home Alone way back when, which was like, you know, a nothing kind of a role as far as like who he is now.
He just got squished by a chair.
Yeah, he got squished by a chair and that was it, right? And then he was like Scott's roommate in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and that was kind of like my first time being like, oh, who is this guy? You know, but then he did.
I know all the S shows.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone's obsessed with.
I know it's so. I was gonna say Severance, but it's not that.
No,
it's Succession.
Succession, yeah.
Yes, and then he did Succession, which like clearly was very good. I've never seen it, but it's like clearly very good. A lot of people love it. And he's like very good on it. And I feel like this was kind of like his first post-Succession role to kind of show the world what he's got. And he's clearly got it.
Yeah. And I'm just like really enjoying his press run for this movie. Like he is such a funny person. And it's just like without him trying to be, it's just like his essence, which is like his character in the movie, like his essence of just, you know, everybody kind of being drawn towards him. Yeah. In his quirkiness.
They I don't want to like spoil the movie, but I think just a very interesting thing that happened in the movie is like Jesse Eisenberg is kind of like the straight guy, like straight-laced guy. Like he's trying to like follow the rules. He's not trying to like stand out too much. And they're on this tour, and Kieran Culkin's character is just kind of like feeling everything, like being blunt, saying what's on his mind and everything. And there comes a point where they leave the tour and they're saying bye to the people that they like just spent some of this time with, and they're like, oh my gosh, bye Kieran, it was so great meeting you. Like they're giving him hugs and stuff, they're saying all this stuff, and then they look at Jesse and they're like, bye. And I thought there was an interesting message there about like, yeah, Jesse's character is kind of like trying not to stand out and follow all the rules, but also like nobody really remembers that guy very well. Yeah. And, you know, why not kind of be a little more out there, be a little more unafraid to be yourself. Yeah. So, yeah. I liked that.
Yeah. He like really challenged people, I feel like, in the movie. And
Kieran Culkin, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know, I appreciated it. You know?
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah. But it makes you think like the way that he acts in the movie, if I were to like, if there were a person in my life that were like acted like that, it wouldn't bother me. I don't know. I feel like there's a thin line between someone who is very blunt and says what's on their mind and like really challenges you on everything. Like there's a thin line between it being interesting and I don't know, interesting in the way that he was in the movie versus like a jerk, you know, or like just like very disruptive.
Yeah, he's like he's not trying to be a
he's
jerk.
Not he's not being a jerk. He's not being just like disruptive.
Well, he's very
well,
disruptive.
He is disruptive, but like in a good way. Like
yeah, I mean, he's asking like valid questions.
Yeah, he's just like getting people to think.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
Yeah, good movie. Check it out. It's streaming on Hulu.
Yeah. But that's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, things have been pretty stable on my end. Let's see.
It's snowing.
Is it snowing?
It's flurrying.
Flurrying. That means a small amount of snow is falling. It does not mean a tornado. Which is what I thought it meant 2 weeks ago. Because I'm from California and I don't know these things.
My favorite was when it was full on snowing and you were like, it's flurries. I was like, no, babe, it's not snow.
It's not flurrying anymore.
Snowing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll start with like, because I'm not really reading any books right now. I'm still kind of like reading baby books, because we have a baby on the way.
Don't sound so upset about it. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not upset about it. Yeah. I'm just not going to talk about what I learned about the baby books on the podcast. So
go read them.
Yeah,
if you want.
So I've still been playing video games, mostly just been playing video games on the weekend, and I'm still playing Devil May Cry 3 and Sly 2, Band of Thieves, and last weekend I started playing The Last of Us Part 2. So I've gotten a little carried away with the number of games that I'm actively playing right now. Like games that I've started without finishing is at like 6 right now, which is like way too high of a number, and I can't like focus on 6 different games. So and that would be Devil May Cry 3, Sly 2, Last of Us Part 2, Dredge, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Black Myth Wukong. I've played a lot of Black Myth Wukong, but I'm kind of putting a pause on that right now because I want to focus on playing The Last of Us Part 2 is kind of like my AAA, premium experience game right now, because the second season of The Last of Us TV show comes in April, and we're expecting a child in March. So I want to like play through that before baby boy gets here. And I just enjoy Sly 2, and it's not that long, and I haven't played it in so long, so I'm just like, that of the 3 games between Devil May Cry, Sly 2, and Last of Us 2, that's the one I'm kind of like, I feel like the most excited to be playing, just because I have so much nostalgia for it and haven't played it in like 20 years. And then Devil May Cry 3 is a very fun game. It's also a very cool game. It's also incredibly hard, so I feel like when I sit down on my weekend days to like play games, I kind of start with Devil May Cry because it's so hard. I know I'm going to like struggle with it, and then that's going to kind of put me in the mood to play something easier like Sly 2. And then The Last of Us is just kind of like just a really good story, as well as like it's kind of like a perfect balance of things, but it's also like I can't do it all like in one sitting. Like I can't just play The Last of Us for a prolonged period of time. I feel like I kind of need like a palate cleanser every once in a while. So yeah, those things have been going on. I'll eventually like finish Black Myth Wukong. I'll eventually like actually really play Indiana Jones. I feel like I've barely done anything in that game. And then Dredge, I don't know. We'll see. It'll probably just be like my plane game for a while. Next time I'm on an airplane, whenever that is. So, yeah, I'm not trying to get carried away or anything. The Switch 2 got announced, which is very cool. Whenever that comes out, I'll probably get one. Probably launch with a new Mario Kart and Metroid Prime and maybe a new Super Mario like 3D game sometime this year. So, I look forward to all of that. But I think in general this year, I'm not trying to buy as many new games and kind of just focus on finishing the ones I've started and playing the ones that I've bought that I haven't started. So, I don't see a ton of reason to like dive into a bunch of new games this year, especially with Baby Boy on the way. But like, Nintendo starts releasing things and it's like, all right, well, okay, let's find some time. Like to, like if I was playing all of these games and we're busy with Baby Boy and like, we're in the Switch 2 is out and like I have only a very, very, very limited time to play games. It's like, yeah, I'm going to focus on the new Nintendo stuff just because that's like, it goes first priority in the gaming lineup when Nintendo does, anything substantial. So, yeah, but I mean, most excited for our baby boy to be born. So that's pretty much it with video games right now. Last week I mentioned this movie that I had started called Suzume, and I finished it, and it was really good. I actually really, really liked it. It's very long. It's 2 hours. But I don't know. It felt like watching a Ghibli movie. Like, how do I put this? Because it's very different stylistically than a Ghibli movie, but it just kind of feels like the modern experience of like watching a Ghibli movie for the first time, if that makes sense. Like how I felt when I watched Spirited Away for the first time when I was a kid is kind of how I felt watching Suzume for the first time now. And I feel like Ghibli movies have kind of been different in the last 20 years. Like I feel like the last like truly great one was, well, all of them. But for me, I feel like like in the pantheon of Studio Ghibli movies, the last one to come out that was kind of like top 5 for me was Howl's Moving Castle, just like 20 years ago. So yeah, Suzume kind of felt like, relighting that spark, so to speak, of that just kind of like type of movie. Even though it's like modern day and it's kind of totally different animation style and everything, it's just kind of the like sense of wonder or just like curiosity being drawn to this like Japanese animated film was very good. So I really recommend it if that feeling sounds interesting to anybody. And then today I decided I wanted to get back into watching anime, and it had kind of been a while since I'd really like sat and watched anime. And I haven't like enjoyed anime, I feel like, at all, like to myself in like years. I like started watching One Piece in 2021, which is a very long show. I'm like 700 episodes deep into One Piece, and I mean we've watched like Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, and I love anime and all that. But I feel like I haven't really like watched an anime from like start to finish in the last like 2 years. It's just not something that I've done like at all. And so today I kind of was like, all right, like let's dedicate some time to playing some or like watching some anime that I've started that I'm like kind of close to finishing for some. And so I just kind of like dedicated some time to like tackle a chunk of that, and I feel like I got through like half of what I had left on 4 different shows, or I guess 3 different shows. So one of the ones that I watched was Sakamoto Days. That one's a new one, so that's like that just came out. There's only 2 episodes out on it on Netflix right now. And so I like started that one, I want to say yesterday or the day before, and I just kind of like wanted to watch it and enjoyed it. So I watched the 2nd episode today. And then a show that I think I've talked about on the podcast that I like couldn't quite get into was Dawn to Dawn, which is also on Netflix. It's like I had seen like 5 episodes, and there's like 12 episodes out at the moment, and I just couldn't get into it. It was like way too chaotic. I couldn't pick up on like what the heck the story was, and everything was just moving very quick, and it felt a lot like Fooly Cooly. If anybody listening is familiar with Fooly Cooly, it's just like a very chaotic kind of trippy show. But I feel like my problem was that I was kind of like so used to multitasking while I watched anime. Like unless we were watching an anime together, I was so used to watching like One Piece while doing something else. So whenever I like sat down to watch something like Dawn to Dawn, I kind of had this like drive to like not be fully focused on doing that and doing something else. And you can't really watch like anime in Japanese while doing that. So I just couldn't I was just struggling to get into it. So today I finally kind of just like watched it and just focused on that. Like I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about like, I don't know what's going on in the world or what, like the news or, anything. I was just like, I'm going to put my phone like over there and I'm just going to watch this show and figure it out. And I finally feel like I'm enjoying it now, which is a nice feeling. So I watched some of that, and then I was like, well, I started Chainsaw Man like summer of 2023. Let me get back to that. And now I'm finally like, oh, I get what makes this show actually good, which is cool. And then I had started the show Terminator Zero, which is another Netflix anime. It's a Terminator-based anime, and it's pretty good. It's pretty short, and I only had like 3 episodes left on it. So, yeah, I watched another one of that. So now I have like, I want to say I have 4 episodes left of Dawn to Dawn, 4 episodes left of Chainsaw Man, and 2 episodes left of Terminator Zero. And then once I finish those, I don't know what I'll do. I might just not watch anime again for a while. But I just kind of enjoyed like the act of kind of like putting my phone kind of not within arm's length reach and just focusing on watching what I was watching on the TV and having that be anime. It just really felt like I hadn't done that in a long time. And it was kind of nice. And I look forward to finishing those shows. That's kind of it. We're almost done with Skeleton Crew. We've got 1 episode left, which is already out, and we should watch it. And we've been drawing more. That's, I guess, one last thing I'll say. Mm-hmm. Have you been enjoying drawing?
Yeah. It's funny. Wesley, my like really close friend, he texted me today while I happened to be drawing, and there was a drawing that I had given him a long time ago.
You already drew today?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. And he sent me a picture of it, and he was like, when is this making a comeback? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, when are you drawing more? I was like, oh yeah, I like ended up hating drawing because I hated drawing things for other people, and it took the fun out of it. I was like, but I'm trying to find that love for it again now. And I was like, literally as you sent me this, I'm just finished a drawing. And he was like, he said, I think he was like, wow, I'm God.
That sounds like something you would say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's it. Those are the updates.
Nice.
Yeah, we haven't been to the movies at all. It's January, so it's kind of...
Yeah, it's been hard. It's been
like
really,
that.
like we've had snow, and now it's like really icy.
Yeah.
It's just been kind of hard to get out of the house.
Yeah, it'll be kind of nice to go back to the movies at some point, but it's also kind of nice to not be going to the movies.
Yeah, it's like all the movies I want to see, they're not even showing at our typical movie theater that we go to.
Yeah,
and so I'm like, what the heck? And then that makes me not want to go to the movies because I really like the movie theater we usually go to. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'll just wait for these things to come on streaming.
I think since I'm no longer writing my reviews on Instagram, I feel like way less pressure to catch a movie like on time. It's kind of a relief. It's a little therapeutic.
It's a relief for me too.
Yeah.
Because when you would want to go, you'd want to see these things when they came out on like Thursday.
Yeah.
And it'd be like movies I also want to see, but I'm like, I don't need to see it right now. Like I would prefer to just wait till the weekend.
Yeah.
And that was always really hard.
I'm really trying to practice like slowing down and being more mindful this year. I'm like trying to pick up maybe too many hobbies at the same time, but I'm like happy to be doing those things. I'm like slowing down in terms of like my media consumption, and that I think has been really nice.
Yeah.
Or at least like it's forced me to be more present with the media that I'm in the moment consuming, which I think is, how that's helped me get back into anime.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. Well, that being said, you want to talk about some content that we were present for this week?
Yeah.
All right. I believe I'm first.
Yes.
Okay. So for this week's episode, you assigned me Stomp the Yard. Whoop, whoop. Thetas. We rep the Thetas. Thetas.
Silly.
So, Stomp the Yard is a movie that came out in 2007. Last week when you assigned the movie, I thought it was...
yeah, what did you think it was?
Okay, so like when in elementary school, I had a music class where we learned about all kinds of different things relating to music. We learned about Cats. We learned about Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. We learned about Phantom of the Opera. And I remember one day my music teacher had us watch this like VHS tape that was called Stomp. And it was about people kind of like making music with like different like real life objects. Like there'd be like people kind of like working on a billboard or something, and they'd be like clacking on things and whatnot. Or there was like chefs in a big kitchen at a restaurant, and they'd be like clacking on pots and pans and stuff. Some real like Turk and the Monkeys and Tarzan type stuff. And so that's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like let's watch My Assignment tonight. And you're like, okay, yeah, it's like about, you know, people playing instruments or something. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, it is about black fraternities.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's definitely not what I watched.
You were like, what am I talking about?
I had no idea what I was talking about. Yeah, I want to say I looked up Stomp, and it's like very niche and obscure.
I've never heard of that in my life. Not at all.
Yeah, but turns out maybe a lot of people haven't. So so yeah, not that. So Stomp the Yard, as you mentioned. So Stomp the Yard, it is about a young man named DJ, and he is a breakdancer in LA. But one night, his brother, played by Chris Brown, and the rest of his crew are battling against another group on that group's home turf. And DJ and his crew kind of wipe the floor with these guys. And this results in the other group attacking them afterwards, which results in the death of DJ's brother. R.I.P. Chris Brown. We hardly knew you in this movie.
Yeah.
So.
It's you like before that happened, you're like, oh, is Chris Brown the main character? I was like, no.
Yeah, he died.
Like 5 minutes later, he died.
He died.
Yeah.
So, as a second chance, DJ is whisked away off to Georgia to attend an HBCU called Truth University.
Not a real university.
Not a real university. You know, and his uncle kind of calls in a favor for him to go there. So DJ's never taken himself as a college boy, but he decides to give it a try for his mom because he's all that she has left. So,
and that was his brother's dream, was to like, he was really excited to go to college and have that whole experience, but then he died. So
yeah,
DJ's kind of like living out that dream.
Yeah. He feels like an imposter in his brother's shoes, kind of type deal. So DJ, while he's registering for his classes, he spots a baddie played by Megan Good, and he goes out of his way to try to just look at her more, and then
it's very creepy.
It is creepy. It's kind of played off at the very beginning. It's like, oh, maybe he knows her. It's like, nope. He just thinks she's pretty. Then later, he's in the quad, and he sees two fraternity step groups. Step being, gosh, how would I explain step?
It's like, I don't know. It's like a form of dance, but it's like you like use your like hands and feet to like stomp the ground and to clap, but then I don't know. It's just
it feels like dance and poetry and like roasting and like transferring of energy between two different groups.
Yeah. It's such like a black frat thing. So it's like, I don't know how to describe it, because it's just like, you just know it. Like it's just like a traditional thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to describe it, but just Google it.
Yeah.
If you all are interested.
It's really interesting.
If you don't know what it is.
I genuinely I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Before watching this movie. So, DJ's in the quad. He sees two fraternities and their step groups performing basically against each other, I'll say. So you have the Mu Gammas, or the Mu Gammas. Mu or Mu?
I don't know. It's
right,
not a real frat.
It's not real. Yeah. So we have the Mu Gammas and the Thetas. So he almost spots Megan Good again, and again goes out of his way to like get more of a look at her, and he ends up ruining the Mu Gamma's line. And one of the guys in the Mu Gammas, his name is Grant, he has it out for DJ immediately. He's like, who is this guy ruining our line? And afterward, DJ like finally spots Megan Good, and he has an opportunity to talk to her. So he whips up a chat, and oops, turns out she has a boyfriend. And oops, turns out that boyfriend is Grant. Uh-oh. So DJ, no. He is not deterred even in the slightest. He shows up to the local club with his roommate and his friends. He clowns on a bunch of locals' dance moves, and then he gets approached by both frats to join their teams. They're both like, hey, this guy's pretty good. But he doesn't care to do that with either of them, but especially not the Mugamas. But then he finds out that Megan Good is a history tutor, so he gets her to tutor him, and that day, their first tutoring session, they end up at a bar together and making out. And she's got a boyfriend. And it's all because like DJ keeps hitting her with these lines like, you don't deserve to have Grant talk to you that way, or what's a girl like you doing with a guy like him type stuff. Like he just relentless, basically just convincing her like, your boyfriend kind of sucks, you should be able to say whatever you want, you could say whatever you want to me. Just hitting her with that nonstop.
Yeah.
And which, like, hey, he's not wrong. Grant does suck. He doesn't like understand her at all. He kind of sees her as like a prize to be won, or like a possession to own. So
I mean, their relationship is like built on like status, and it's like her dad's like, be with him because he's gonna be a lawyer and blah 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 and whatever. So it's like arranged in a way.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the stepping. DJ doesn't want to join either frat, but then he later he visits Heritage Hall on campus, and he realizes that all of these amazing black leaders were in college fraternities. So he gets very inspired. So he decides he's going to pledge the Thetas, because the Mu Gammas, they suck, right? Even though the Mu Gammas are the 7-time champions of the National Step Championship or whatever. Did I forget to mention that? Because turns out, the Mu Gammas and the Thetas are like the two best step fraternity chapters in the freaking nation. So he decides to join the Thetas, even though they've never won. And the Mu Gammas are, the 7-time champions, and they are planning on, winning an 8th time. So from there, he pledges Thetas. They do a lot of practicing. There's a point where DJ tries to get them to incorporate some new school into their old school routine, but the leader of the Thetas doesn't like it. So how do they settle? What's better between new and old? They have a dance battle at a local venue, and old school wins, but they see the value of incorporating new school. So now they can stand out. Meanwhile, Megan Good, she's still tutoring DJ, and he tells her her favorite color must be green because of all the things that he observes about her. And she's like, wow, okay, he sees me. And her dad, is who you mentioned, kind of set her up with Grant. He's actually the provost of the school. And so, he loves Grant because, Grant's going to be successful and stuff. And she goes to dinner with Grant, and Grant tries to propose to her.
Which is crazy. Propose in college?
Crazy.
What?
Yeah. But she's like, Grant, what's my favorite color? And he's like, red. Red, obviously. And he's like, no, blue. Duh. So, she dumps him. Because it's green.
Why doesn't he know her favorite color?
Then she immediately goes to DJ and is like, I want to be with you. And he's like, tight. So they keep practicing for the national step competition, but then Grant and the gang look into DJ's past. They see he got into a brawl in LA that resulted in someone's death, aka his brother. They reveal this to the school board, who decides to suspend DJ for the rest of the semester, meaning he can't perform at the national step competition. Oh no, what are we going to do? They're not going to be able to win without him. But Megan Good's dad, as the provost, has the authority to overrule their decision, so he tells DJ to stop seeing his daughter and he'll let him back into the school. And DJ's like, nah, that's not your choice, that's hers. And then DJ's gonna like just leave, being upset that his life is all messed up now, but his aunt steps in and talks to Megan Good's dad. Because see, turns out DJ's aunt used to date the provost in college until DJ's uncle swooped in and took his girl.
Which is like the dumbest part
It's
of
like
this whole movie.
the most unnecessary details.
Literally.
It like doesn't need to be in the movie.
The uncle's like, this is all my fault.
Right.
I stole his woman. And I was like, what?
Right.
Why is this a plot point?
So his aunt shows up to be like, is this just revenge for that? And so she tells him to like stop playing, and then Megan Good like overhears it and is like, Daddy, I hate you, stop playing.
But
and
you know
he's
what's
like,
crazy?
all right, I'll stop playing.
You know what's crazy is like, you know, the aunt goes in and is like, are you just bitter because I like left you for this other man that made me happy? And the guy's like, we could have been great together. And it's like, he's not over it clearly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what if it's Megan Good gonna think about you basically just like trashing her mom?
Yeah.
Like subtly.
So wild.
Yeah, just
And-
like being stuck on this other woman.
Right. And so, like, from a story perspective, because Megan Good goes up to her dad and is like, stop playing, he's like, okay, fine, I'll stop playing. The aunt never needed to really be there and do that, meaning the whole, like, backstory with the aunt and the provost, and, you know, having previously dated in college is, like, totally unnecessary. Like, you can resolve the movie without needing to include that.
They needed Megan Good to find, because Megan Good didn't know that.
Right.
You know, the dad gave DJ an ultimatum, basically.
Yeah.
And so they needed something, some sort of conversation
to happen where
she could overhear it.
Yeah.
And
All
so
right.
that's why it was like, throw
I
that
guess
in
this
there.
is like the most fun way you can review that, right? So he's like, all right, fine, I'll stop playing. He's back in school now. So DJ gets to compete at nationals, and him and the Thetas wipe the floor with the competition, except the Thetas and the Mu Gammas, turns out they tie. So now they have to do a sudden death dance-off, which the Thetas win because DJ channels the power of his dead brother, Chris Brown, to pull off a finishing move that nobody could ever hope to come back from. So Thetas win, and everybody lives happily ever after. The end.
Did you, of the two like final performances, not the ones that they did where they tied, where it's like the wolf thing
so
versus
the
like the
Mu-Gammas
TNT
did like
thing?
the Mu-Gammas did a wolf type deal,
Yeah.
and the Thetas did a like a TNT explosive kind of type thing.
Did you have a favorite between those two?
I actually thought they were both like pretty good.
Yeah.
When I watched the Mu-Gammas and their wolf thing, I was like, dang, they showed up. And then the Thetas, I was like, ooh, that's pretty good. So like, I don't know, I think there was like a little bit of recency bias where I was kind of like, oh yeah, I would like to, you know, but I think they were like genuinely equally as good.
Yeah. I think they're equally as good, but for some reason, I don't know, the wolf thing, I
Wolf
just like
thing was
love.
like, they had like contact lenses that blew in the dark
it was, like,
and everything.
very thriller, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I feel like I always, when I saw that, I've seen this movie a million times, but every time I watch it, I always just, I'm like, yeah, the wolf. I like never remember. I always forget that the other team, like the Thanos, do like that whole TNT thing, and I only remember the wolves.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's a movie. I mean, so this movie came out in 2007, which is kind of like right around when Step Up was a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I don't feel like this movie kind of like permeated the zeitgeist quite like Step Up did.
Well, I think this movie is has a very specific context that is very geared towards a specific demographic.
That is true.
So yeah.
Step Up like stars Whitey McWhiterson, Channing Tatum.
Okay, we love us some Channing Tatum though.
Yeah.
We do love us some Channing Tatum. But yeah, it was I feel like Step Up is a story that like anybody can like get into and like, I don't know, resonate with, but like yeah, like I said, this has a very specific context of like, one being set at a HBCU. Two, it's like about black fraternities and sororities, because you see some of the sororities in there too.
Yeah.
Which obviously is going to resonate with a very specific group of people more than others.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a white guy who went to college and I never even knew this was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, if you watch Abbott Elementary, there, Ava, well, it was Janine was the coach, but I don't know if she's still. Oh yeah, both of them, Janine and Ava, they like coach the step team like at their school.
Oh, that's fun.
In Abbott Elementary.
That's fun.
But yeah, it's like if you weren't exposed to that in your own kind of college journey, then like it doesn't surprise me why anyone like would know what it was.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the movie is like a little long. It's a little dense. Like it's a very dense movie. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was really good. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. So it's got some meat on its bones, this movie. Mm-hmm. But overall I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It's the only movie that I know of that's like about like step competition. So I guess like may as well make it as long as possible.
Yeah.
You don't know how many of these we're gonna get.
Yeah. I think there might be a sequel. I think
there is a sequel.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called? Stomp the Yard to the Streets?
I have no clue. Got you. Any other thoughts before I like dive into
Stomp the Yard to the front lawn?
Oh my gosh.
Stomp the lawn.
Like I feel like this movie, I don't think of it in relation to like Step Up. I think of it in relation to Drumline.
Drumline, yeah.
Like this movie and Drumline.
So I've seen Drumline.
Yeah, they were like two movies that I feel like were, I don't know, we're just like so big in terms of, at least in our household and like me and my family's household, like we love both of them.
Stomp the Yard 2, Homecoming.
Which that makes sense. Homecoming's a big deal in college.
Chance Harris looks to find balance between his school-work relationships and opportunity to perform at the nationally televised step competition during homecoming weekend at Truth University.
Nice.
Damn. So...
You're not supposed to swear, babe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Darn. Stomp the Yard. So Stomp the Yard won, like, on IMDb, it's got a 5.4, which, like, is fine. I mean, like, a movie can be in the 5s on IMDb and still be enjoyable, mm-hmm. I think. And also, and feel like, dang, like, I mean, a 5? I think it's, a little better than that. But Stomp the Yard 2 has a 4.1, which, like...
I mean, any sequel to these movies, I feel like is never good.
Yeah, like 4.1. Now you're approaching like The Room, in terms of score, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Got you. Anything else before I dive into facts? Stop looking at it.
What?
So I don't want you to see like the trivia.
Oh, I was looking at Stomp the Yard too.
Oh. Well, are you ready for facts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while they were filming this movie and practicing, they did keep the fraternities separate when they would practice their routines so that each team hadn't seen the other team's routine.
Yeah. I got you. That's fun.
Emphasize the competition. Do you want to take a guess at the budget for this movie?
I'm gonna go with something in like the 15 to 20 million range.
Okay. And how much do you think it accrued?
Lifetime gross?
Worldwide gross.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, they got a sequel, so based on my estimation, I'm going to go with like at least 40 million.
All right. The budget was 13 million, so you were close.
What did I say? 15, 20?
You said 15, 20.
Okay.
Box office worldwide earnings, 75.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it got a decent profit.
Yeah, it got its profit. Yeah.
I thought that was quite a bit. That kind of shocked me a little bit. There was a threatened boycott of this film
Why?
By Alpha Phi Alpha, which is a fraternity, and that was supported by the AKAs, or Alpha Kappa Alphas. Alphas. Alphas.
Al Pacinos.
Which is a sorority, because they were upset that the movie had references to the Alpha Phi Alphas like fraternity in the movie, but they didn't like approve it. So the like fraternities and sororities, I feel like, are very strict about the representation of them in like media.
Yeah. No, I mean,
so,
understandable. It's going to be building an entire impression. It affects kind of their legacy, so I get it.
Yeah. And so Sony ended up taking out any references to that fraternity. And I think Sony ended up like donating money to a like some sort of like cause or something like that the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity like led or backed or whatever. I don't know.
I'd say it was the right move.
Yeah. So yeah. Sony Pictures held a national high school stepping competition with the release of this film.
Okay.
And a school in Virginia won, the North Stafford High School.
Nice.
So cool. Love that.
We live in Virginia.
No, we don't. We live in Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right. We do live in Wisconsin. I always forget that
we live in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't go outside.
This is Chris Brown's first movie. But
I had a feeling based on that, like the intro credits.
Yes.
It was like introducing Chris Brown as blah blah.
Yeah, but
I was like, "Whoa, he's gonna be in this movie." Dead.
In the same year, This Christmas did come out, and he's also in that movie.
Gotcha. Does he die in that movie too?
No. At least I don't think so. I don't remember.
Gotcha.
But this is kind of a side tangent. As I was looking up to like ensure that this was Chris Brown's first movie, I saw that he's a character in the OC, and I'm like, what? When do we get to that?
Wow.
And like, who is he in the OC?
Well, I guess we'll find out eventually. Yeah. That's fun.
I think there are very few people of color in the OC.
Yeah.
So I'm
right.
Unfortunately.
You know, now having seen the moves that Chris Brown was able to pull off in this movie, it kind of does explain, you know, why Chris Brown is such a good freaking dancer.
Babe. You're telling me that this movie is your first introduction into his dancing? No, it's not my first introduction.
I want to say I saw in the last 4 months Chris Brown, like modern day Chris Brown dancing, and I was like,
in the
dang.
last 4 months?
I was like, dang, I didn't know he had it like that.
Have you never watched his music videos?
I guess not.
Oh, I'm shook. Hold on. I got to process this information. The reason why we all fell in love with Chris Brown, he was probably one of my first artists that I like. When he was like introduced to the world, I was like, I love this man.
Really?
Now, granted, I'm not a big Chris Brown fan today.
Sure.
But you know, child me freaking loved Chris Brown, and it was because he could dance. His voice was amazing. He was on an episode of Sue Evans, Zach and Cody dancing. Like, he was just like the cutest, coolest guy in the world.
So, okay, now my experience with Chris Brown growing up was just that I knew about that one song where it was like,
Run it. Is that what it's called? Run it? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His voice got way deeper after that. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, I had a freaking iPod Shuffle. You know, the little white USB iPod.
That was my first iPod.
That was my first iPod, and it was nothing but freaking Chris Brown. Like,
mine was like all favorite. Guitar Hero music and Fall Out Boy.
Oh my gosh, no, mine was like Chris Brown and probably like T-Pain.
Maybe like one Zelda song.
Silly. But no, I like on the school bus, I was listening to Chris Brown, Chris Breezy. But that's wild that you like didn't know he could like dance like that.
No, I did not know that.
That's insane. Goodness.
Yeah, it turns out that's like why he's famous.
Yeah. I'm like,
I don't know what I don't know, hon.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we gotta get you more exposure.
How good of an actor is Denzel Washington? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Don't. Don't even go there.
I'm just kidding.
That's crazy. But yeah, that's all the facts I have about this movie. There wasn't too much.
Gotcha.
I need a bathroom break.
Okay. Well, while you are doing that, I will sit here and fill the air. I mean, I could just pause, but I'm not going to do that. So, let's see. What is going on? Hey, TikTok got banned today. TikTok is like down today. That's pretty wild. I feel like I'm wondering what we're going to be thinking when we reflect on this. Supposedly there's only like a 90-day, it's banned at the moment, but supposedly there's going to be a 90-day kind of like grace period to kind of get things figured out when the new president gets sworn in, which is happening, tomorrow. But we don't know for sure. So that happened, and it's because of its association with this company ByteDance, which is involved with the Chinese government, supposedly. And what's interesting is that other companies that are affiliated with ByteDance, their products also were taken offline today, and I don't think that was like considered necessary. I think it was people were kind of surprised that happened. So, like, for example, there's this game called Marvel Snap. It's quite popular, and the company that made Marvel Snap is affiliated with ByteDance in some way. It's like the company's owned by ByteDance or something. And so that's no longer available as of today, which is crazy. So there's just like a little bit of news for you in case you didn't know that. But yeah, TikTok ban. Very interesting. You're back.
I'm back.
I was just getting the people
Boring
caught
people.
up.
I'm just kidding.
I was getting people caught up on the TikTok ban news.
Got you. It looks like it's going to storm really bad.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Or in like 10 minutes?
I don't know. Anyway.
I'm looking forward to cooking dinner. I'm hungry.
I am too. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on.
I was assigned the movie Jeff Who Lives at Home. And what year did this come out? Because I forgot to write it down.
2011.
2011. And so Jeff, played by Jason Segel. Sorry, I have to burp. Excuse me. All the pregnancy things are happening at once. Excuse me. Okay. Jeff, played by Jason Segel, is an adult who's still living in his mom's basement. And he's a little bit quirky. And one day he gets a call from a guy asking for a Kevin. And this basically sends him on like a spiral following any person or thing he comes across with the name Kevin. So like he meets a guy named Kevin.
Well, he doesn't usually leave his house, but he has to leave his house this day because it's his mom's birthday and she asked him to fix the shutter. So he's actually, she left him money to go to the Home Depot. And while he's on the way to the Home Depot, he is getting distracted by any sign of anything Kevin related.
Yes.
So, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. What he said. And somehow in his Kevin journey, he ends up running into his trash brother named Pat, played by Ed Helms. And Ed is having issues with his wife. And as Pat and Jeff are having a conversation, he sees his wife with another man. And so they decide to basically like sneak around to see if she's cheating and like to follow her. And throughout this time, like as they're kind of following her throughout the day, they're bickering and they're just like having a really hard time understanding one another. But by like the end of the movie, they kind of reconcile. And then there's like all these other subplots in the movie. Sorry, I'm making this very short. There's all these other subplots in the movie. So like at the end, Jeff saves a dad whose name happens to be Kevin and his two daughters. And I guess this like gives him a sense of purpose by the end of the movie. And then the mom also has her own kind of little plot where she has a secret admirer at work. And that turns out to be like her lady friend, coworker.
Oh, yeah.
And they like randomly form a relationship. I think it's like unclear.
It's not quite clear.
Yeah.
She like has a crush on her and they kiss but
and they're like about to run away together, but then like don't because
right, but they're not gay.
It like makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then like Pat and his wife end up being okay after they like talk and stuff. And that's pretty much the movie.
Did you? I might have missed it. Did you summarize how Jeff saved some people?
Yeah. I did.
And the dad's name happened to be Kevin?
I said that.
You said that? Okay.
Should have been listening.
My bad.
So I felt indifferent about this movie. I didn't love it. It wasn't the humor that I thought it would be.
No, I mean, I feel like I tried to softball you, like kind of prep you for the fact, like, this is not like a funny movie.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah.
But, you know, because of the actors who are in it, it's kind of,
yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it's
it
going
has
to be
some
labeled,
humor.
it's going to be labeled comedy.
Yeah.
But it's not really
that.
It's a very low stakes movie.
Yeah. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I feel like a lot of it, I was like, I don't know. It felt very disconnected to me. Like, I just like didn't understand how one thing was relevant to the other. And maybe I just like missed it. Like, for example, like the mom's whole plot. I'm like, how is what she's going through connected to what these brothers are going through? Because like at the end, they make it seem like, oh, it all culminates this one meeting point where they're all together.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I just like, I don't know. I just wasn't tracking why any of it mattered.
I think the subplot with the mom, kind of irrelevant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something to give Susan Sarandon something to do. Because otherwise, Susan Sarandon would have been totally wasted on this movie.
Yeah.
But she was, but like, you know, not that much.
Yeah.
Not as much as she would have been wasted if the mom character had nothing to do.
Yeah. I also just feel like, I don't know, there wasn't enough resolution between Pat and Jeff for me. Like, I just like I don't know, that like their tension didn't seem fully resolved.
The tension between Pat and Jeff?
Yeah.
How so?
I don't know. I guess, and maybe I just don't remember the movie very well.
So like they don't really have a ton of tension other than like, you know, I mean, they're kind of helping each other out, or at least trying to help out Pat. But like
but they do have a lot of tension because Pat's like, get out of mom's house. Like, you're too old. You're like, you know, he's like really hounding Jeff and like just does not understand Jeff. And then like Jeff is upset about that. And
they kind of have this like cathartic moment at their dad's gravestone, and they kind of like, you know, talk then. But like, I don't know. I think by the time they catch his Pat's wife at the hotel with like another man, and they're sitting in the bathtub, and they are just kind of talking about Pat's life, and Jeff kind of tells him like, or Pat tells him like, I just want to love my wife again, and Jeff just tells him like, well, what are you doing? Like, wasting your time. Like, you should just tell her that. And he's like, it's not that simple. And he's like, wouldn't it be awesome if she came in and said, Pat, I want to love you again? He was like, yeah, that would be pretty awesome. So that in that moment, they're kind of like connecting, and I'm trying to find the answer to your question. I'm not necessarily saying it's the right answer.
Yeah, I just like, I don't know. It didn't feel like Pat learned anything. You know what I mean? In terms of like accepting Jeff. Like, it was just like Jeff being a good brother the whole time, and Pat just like taking advantage of it.
You know, by going through this life-threatening thing, they come to realize that life is short, and anything can happen at any time, and that they should appreciate their family in the present moment. And Pat realizes that he's been kind of a terror to his wife, and I mean, yeah, the movie doesn't like dive super deep into really anything.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was like lackluster to me, because I feel like it was very surface level. It's like I get what it's trying to do, but it doesn't feel like it does it successfully. And I feel like having watched that and then watching like A Real Pain, where there's like conflict between the two characters, who clearly care about each other, but like, you know, an event happens that like kind of drifts them apart a little bit. Like that's how you, to me, in my opinion, like that's how you tackle I two people who are like on kind of opposite pages and trying to like understand each other, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think A Real Pain is a much better movie than Jeff Who Lives at Home.
Of course.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I feel like having watched that made me like reflect back on this of like, like what really got accomplished in this movie.
Yeah. So the whole reason I've seen Jeff Who Lives at Home is because it was my first like intro to film studies class at community college. The first movie we watched was Jeff Who Lives at Home, and that's we learned about like the 5 steps of like narrative structure, and we had to write like a comment in the forum for our class about how this movie, like which parts of this movie kind of follow the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and like end of whatever the end of the movie, the denouement, all that. The resolution. Yes, thank you. And all that. So we had to like, reflect on this movie, and so I did that. And fun fact, the first time I took film studies, I took it in person, and I did the first assignment and then pretty much just showed up and watched movies and never really did the homework and actually got an F. So I had to retake it, and I retook it online with the same instructor, same curriculum, same movies and everything. But I actually did my assignments that time.
Babe.
So
why didn't you do your homework?
I don't know. It was weird. Like we showed up, like we always had a good time. So it never really felt like my grade was in jeopardy. Like she never graded anything. So it was never kind of clear to me that I was going to get an F. I just kind of like showed up. I participated. We did activities and I was there for that stuff. And for some reason I just like never did the homework of like actually like writing an analysis on the movies. And I got an F. But that was okay. I retook the movie. Grade got erased. And it's fun. I don't want to like throw my brother under the bus, but he was in that class with me and also got an F and also retook the movie online.
Retook the class.
Yeah, he retook the class online. Sorry, he retook the my bad. He retook the class online at the same time as me. Yeah. So I had to write about Jeff Who Lives at Home twice, and I had to watch the movie twice in the span of like 4 months. So so I just like knew, this movie was kind of like, it was like my first film studies movie. Gotcha. Which is why I wanted to, take another look at it. Like 11 and a half years later.
Got you. It's interesting that like, I mean, you took like a film class. I don't even know if our university offered film classes. Maybe they did. But I did take a philosophy of literature and film. And it's like interesting the movies that stick with you from like a class like that where you like critique it. Like you actually like sit and analyze it.
Yeah.
Because, I don't remember what it's called. I think of like the one movie that I do remember from that class was the one about where it's like a zombie apocalypse and it's like the dad and his son. And
The Road?
Yeah. Yes, that one.
The Cormac McCarthy book?
Yes. Yeah.
But like the movie?
The movie, yeah. We watched that and it just like stuck with me and I always think about it.
Yeah, I've been I did a personal training session at the place down the street, at the gym down the street last summer. Mm-hmm. I did like 2 sessions there, and the personal trainer turns out he's like big into writing. And so I was talking to him and he like studied writing and literature and all that, and I was like, well, so you must have like books that you love, like anything that you recommend. and he recommended The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
So it's been sitting in my Amazon cart for 6 months.
I don't know if it's a zombie movie, but it's a post-apocalypse
it is
movie.
post-apocalypse. Yeah.
I was like, I don't think there's ever zombies.
Zombies.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
I just always assume if it's post-apocalypse, it's zombies.
Yeah, no, not quite. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it was a really good movie, and I loved the discussions we had in class about it.
Yeah, I mean, film discussion, film classes, that stuff's really fun.
Yeah.
Wish I was part of a film analysis group or a book club, something like that.
Yeah. I don't think I would enjoy that. I'd be like, it's not that deep. It was just a movie.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. I don't always approach things with a critical lens all the time.
Yeah.
Movie wise.
So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Yesterday I was playing The Last of Us 2, and I noticed something about the game's design. I wrote a review for that for that game when it came out back in 2020. I didn't go very in depth on anything. I just kind of was like, it's a great game. And at the time I thought it was flawless. And I'm playing it again, and I'm noticing very small things in regards to its game design that I kind of am oh, okay, it's still very incredible, but not quite as perfect as The Last of Us 1. Just in terms of small game design stuff, not necessarily a story or anything like that. Just tiny things. And I was taking stock of that because that's what I do. I would play something like that and I would take stock of it and I would write it down and make sure I put it in my review. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, I gotta write this down. And I was like, oh wait, no I don't, because I don't do that anymore. And I mean, plus I already wrote a review about this game way back when, but I was like, oh, I don't have to think critically about this. I can just enjoy it. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to just take something for face value. That's what it's supposed to be for. It's it's entertainment.
Yeah.
So not everything has to be so deeply analyzed and critiqued and stuff. It's if you had a good time, it was great.
Yeah. I mean,
if you didn't have a good time, maybe it was bad.
I still enjoy thinking critically and all of that.
Yeah.
And I, enjoyed sharing and all of that.
It's always fun to pick apart the themes.
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah. But right now, where I'm at right now, I was like, whew, how nice is that? I don't have to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jeff Who Lives at Home is not a great movie.
Yeah, not my favorite.
I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not amazing. It's not fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not great. I'd give it baseline level good, just between okay and good.
I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5.
Ooh, see, on my scale that would be poor. I'd give it a 2.5, which is an okay on my scale.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it could be poor. 2.25 to 2.5. That range. That the 2 to 2.5 range for this movie.
Silly.
I guess I should like bust out some facts.
Yeah, I was like, I don't have anything else.
There's not very many facts. You
always say that, and then you have like paragraphs.
No. There's really not that much. I'll fly through this. I'll just read through it. This is all coming just from like IMDb trivia. So the bathtub scene that I talked about, where they're like, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if she walked in here and said I want to love you again?" You'd be like, "Oh yeah, that'd be pretty great." So apparently that was all improvised. The directors, Jay Duplass and Mark Duplass, they're brothers. They just let the two of the Ed Helms and Jason Segel riff for about 40 minutes before they finally called cut. So it was just kind of improvised, and then they cut it together and made it make sense in the movie.
Make it make sense.
Ed Helms apparently didn't care for the screenplay that much when he read it the first time, but he liked the idea of working with the Duplass brothers and Jason Segel, so he signed on to the movie.
I think he didn't even like the movie. And he was in it.
Jason Segel, he was attracted to it because he liked the character Jeff, because he felt like Jeff reminded him of himself as a younger man. And I think like a lot of young men can see themselves in Jeff to a degree. Kind of anybody who's ever kind of had a slacker era. I feel like I had a slacker era, and Jeff was kind of like, this is what you would become if you stayed a slacker. And yeah, so happy to not be a Jeff anymore. But anyway, let's see. I thought this was interesting. Supposedly the directors, J.A. and Mark Duplass, they said that they cried through the entire premiere of this movie. So I read that and was like, hey, that's weird.
Like, were they just so proud of what they accomplished?
I think maybe. So like them two as directors, like they make kind of like these kind of like small scale movies like this. But like Mark Duplass, most people know him as being like the main guy from The League, which is the show about just like a group of friends who have like a fantasy football league together. It was pretty popular for like 6 years, from like 2009 to 2015 or something.
Never heard of it.
That was kind of like the first movie that like the first show that like Nick Kroll came from. You know Nick Kroll, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like people kind of know that group of people from The League, and Mark Duplass was one of them, and him and his brother like directed some movies. But kind of, yeah, these like small scale indie movies, maybe a lot of them people have never even heard of. But I get the sense when I read that they cried through the entire premiere of this movie that it was probably just like some interview, and they were like, oh yeah, we cried like the whole time at the premiere. Like, yeah. Like I feel like it was not so like,
yeah,
they cried, and it was just kind of like, oh, we were there, and it was just
Emotional
great.
night.
And, it was emotional night. We cried,
Cynthia Ariana situation.
Right. Yeah, and I guess like final set of facts here. Estimated budget of $10 million seems inaccurate. I don't think this movie would cost $10 million to make. It seems like it would cost $2 million to make this movie.
I mean, didn't a car get destroyed in this movie? A nice car, nice Corvette.
A Porsche.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they crash a Porsche in this movie.
Yeah.
I guess
that cost money.
That probably cost money. Then there was like, they had to put a car in the water off the side of a bridge.
Yeah.
That probably cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like you could have made this movie not for $10 million.
Yeah.
You could have found a lower budget way to not involve so many vehicles and still get things across.
Yeah.
And the movie grossed $4.7 million worldwide.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Worldwide, oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. This just doesn't feel like one of those movies that's being made to turn a profit.
Yeah.
So it's kind
It's
of
a
a
passion
surprise.
project.
Yeah. Kind of surprised that they would spend $10 million.
Yeah.
Because I don't see how this movie was ever going to recoup $10 million.
Yeah.
Anyway, final fact here is that it's kind of weird that Jeff would live in his mom's basement, given the film takes place in Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Ooh.
which they don't really have basements there.
Yeah.
It's like
It feels like it would always be flooded.
yeah, it's a shallow water table, tough clay soil, extreme humidity. So yeah, basements just don't really get built there. So kind of weird that it's like, oh, you live in your mom's basement. It's like, no, nobody would really. And that's it.
Wow.
That's the movie. Jeff Who
Cool.
Lives at Home.
Fun.
Yep. So you want to do assignments?
Sounds good.
All right. Who wants to go first?
You can go first. Ow.
Okay. This is funny. So the Jeff Who Lives at Home, the movie that we just watched, I watched it for a class, and it made me think about other movies that I have watched for a class and haven't seen since. And it reminded me of when I was in the 9th grade, I watched a movie for a class called Mi Familia. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
Silly.
It's about a family it's about a Mexican family in California and kind of like different kind of generations of their family. And I just remember it being like really good. And yeah, and I haven't seen it since. So I think you'd enjoy it. So yeah, we're gonna watch that.
Okay. I have two choices for you. Would you like a 90s thriller or an absurd teen classic?
Which do you think is going to fit better with my movie?
Probably neither of them.
Let's go with the 90s thriller.
Okay. I'm going to give you the movie Wild Things.
Oh, jeez. Are you sure?
Are you sure? You can choose the absurd teen classic, but that's also not at all going to go with what you assigned.
Okay, wait, I'm trying to find my movie. Is this the movie? Yeah. Okay. I guess, all right, my movie's not called Mi Familia. My apologies. It's called My Family. I don't know. We just called it Mi Familia. I don't know why.
Is there like is it like, was it Mi Familia, but then they gave it like an English title? You know how like movies do that?
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the poster and it just says My Family. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll fill you in next time when I look at the that their trivia.
Well, do you want to stick with Wild Things or do you want me to assign the other thing?
I just don't think it's... I mean, My Family was made in 1995, but like, what was the other thing?
I'm not going to tell you. Either switch, not knowing what it is.
Okay, well, what was the description for the other thing?
An absurd teen classic, which it's also not at all going to go with your...
An absurd
assignment.
Teen classic.
Yeah.
From what year?
The 2010s.
The 2010s?
Yeah.
Let's do that one.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Locked in, final answer?
Yeah, I locked in, final answer.
Project X.
I think, okay. Wasn't there a movie like I was going to give you?
I don't know.
If you gave me Project X?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that. No, let's do that. I'm down. I'm down for that. My Family and Project X. No, that's good. That's good. Okay. I think that reminds me of high school. That duo there. Mm-hmm. Wild Things. It's too opposite of My Family. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Okay. So next week it'll be My Family and Project X. Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. Yep. That'll be a good combo. People will show up for Project X, but then they'll be like, "Oh, what's this My Family movie? I don't know. I want to actually go watch that."
Sure.
All right. Look forward to that. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Content Swap Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.